What's going on, everybody? Doc from Average Gamer Guys back yet again, continuing our best leader testing. This time working some Colony. So again, if you guys are new to the series, you're new to the channel, doing a series playing 2 Blitz games, 1v1s, going through. Here's the deck I'll be using for Colony. Nothing too crazy, pretty good setup. As you guys know, in a lot of the other videos that we always do, when I do deck setups, especially in 1v1s, I like to have a really good balance, good hard counter units, and I think that's what we have here between the two different types of hunters. We got the Assault Elites in there, as well as the Grunt Mob. Got our Banshee and then our Prowling Reaver, and then some top end stuff that should help us out. So we'll jump into this match. But again, if you're new, going through, we're taking each of the 2 leaders, playing 2 games back to back, 1v1 blitzes against them, and I really am trying to answer the question for myself and hopefully with you guys to really figure out, are all the leaders viable, and on top of that, you know, kind of rank order them based on some of these games, some of the games I've played in the past, and just get a little bit more of a definitive answer to this. The nice thing is this is our 3rd episode, and up until this point we've actually had a pretty good range of opponents. Guys generally around my level, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, and we really haven't faced, in a lot of instances, we haven't faced the same you know, consistent enemy either as far as hero, which is nice. So we're getting to take a look, getting a nice diversity between both player skill as well as different heroes, and putting these guys up against each other. So we'll jump into this one. 3rd episode. I'm feeling pretty good. I kind of, you know, we just finished up doing Shipmaster. We've got Isabel up at this point already. We'll continue through the rest of the week, putting 1 up a day. So if you're new, again, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell button so you get those notifications. Follow us on Twitter. That way, you know, another good way to figure out and know when we've got new stuff up. And then we also have the Xbox Average Gamer Guys Club, which if you're new, you guys can feel free to join. Everybody is more than welcome there. Got a good little community. So we'll jump into this. The one thing with Colony that I really like is I really like his starting army. Really solid. It has honestly is pretty tough to take down. I think the only thing that you lose out on against is maybe a little bit more of a heavy infantry you know, starting army, or against, you know, heavier infantry units. But against these vehicles like he's got, we kind of have a decent little advantage. Now we also do lose out a little bit on the air side, but that is okay. That's one thing that I think we're willing to kind of give up at this point. You know, I do want to, as always, focus on the energy grab. Super important, especially trying to get these early ones. I think he might beat me to this one. I'm not really sure. But having the Banshee in this starting army is really beneficial too. Sadly, the Assault Elites, they're just not quick enough, which does kind of stink. But as you guys know, again, if you've watched any of the other videos, you know that I do put a lot of importance on trying to win this initial fight, and then obviously win the initial energy war, which is what we're going to try to do here. Now I do get myself into a little bit of a situation. Definitely want to take this Marauder out. I definitely want to make this fight, and I know that's going to be easy for me just because the fact that I have, you know, the 2 hunters, and the hunters are super solid. I've got 2 engineers. I think that's the thing that really also throws this starting army a little bit ahead, to be really honest, because they are really solid, and they help keep this core group up. I've obviously thrown in this Locust here, which, you know, it by itself is another incredibly difficult unit to take down, the fact that it constantly heals itself. So at this point, are obviously still fighting for these initial points. This first fight is actually generally going our way, I would say. I'm not sure how he's able to see that Prowling Reaver. I know he's got an engineer over there. I guess that Reaver maybe came in and was able to see me. That I'm not really too sure about. It seems like the range on Detect isn't always the same, although I know it is. It just sometimes feels like it isn't. And this right here is just incredible. It took me so long to take that out. But here, I mean, we've got the initial fight. We've got 2 points. You know, we're a little weak at this point. I'm trying to find something to call in. Assault elites aren't going to do it. Blood Fuel Locust probably would have done it. But we're going to try to maybe snag up some energy here. It probably would have been smart for me at this point to just wait for the Hunter Captain. But I do want to call in the hard counter, and I think that's the one thing that the colony does have that's pretty decent, is the fact that it does seem to allow me to have most of the hard counter units that I need to. Now, I did not want to call that in. I don't know why I did right there. Trying to call this Grunt Mob in. Grunt Mob is also a decent counter to some of the air units. So we're going to try to get that in there. But at this point, because he's so focused on that fight, and I'm kind of able to take a little bit of my focus away, that actually is going to help me to pick up some of this pretty much needed energy. I'll be really honest. I'm going to kind of get these guys to retreat back. But at this point, you know, he doesn't have much. He still has some of his air units. I want to get that. I'm having a hard time getting this core group back. I think that's because I do some of that area selection from time to time. But we'll just get everything back here. We'll get it all healed up, and we'll kind of just push from there. He did do a good job of keeping his core group alive as well. So I'll definitely say that. You know, kudos to him. And you know, at this point, I still feel pretty good. You know, we've got a little bit of about 30-point advantage at this point. And the first, I won't say we necessarily won the initial fight, but we definitely didn't lose it. It was pretty even. So he's going to start to stack up his little group there. He's done a great job of keeping the air alive, which he knows the Hunter Captain is a little bit weak to, unless I have some real hard counter units. His Marauder, sadly, is not going to stand a chance. But at this point, I can kind of get this set up over here. I'm hoping to just get to the Prowling Reaver, and then from there we should be pretty decent to kind of continue the fight. But again, the one thing I think that pushes me over in this fight just happens to be my energy collection. I'm going to use the Assault Elites. I'm going to run these guys over here. I'm going to call this Prowling Reaver in. I'm going to let this do some shooting. Again, see, I guess that Engineer is right there. He's got a couple engineers up. He's definitely taken out some of my units. He worked the blister back there pretty good. But at this point, I think I'm setting up okay. Again, I'm trying to use Grunt Mob as kind of a hard counter. I've also been noticing that happening a lot. I don't know why. It seems like the choppers will get too close into the energy cores, and then they don't end up shooting it. They just get stuck. So keep an eye out for that. I've actually noticed it kind of over the course of a lot of my games, which is obviously not ideal and not something that we want to have happening, because we want to be able to quickly get our energy cores. So I'm going to try to make a little bit of a small core group here that's decent against air, and make the push in here. Try to get this Reaver out. I do jump it. Does it survive? I think it does. I think I just barely pull it out, which is awesome. Nice thing is choppers are decent. Rush, or elites right there having rush makes them a really good unit for that. You'll see a lot of that, especially in ones, and I've been seeing it a lot, and it's a tactic that I use pretty regularly. But the sole fact that you know, you have to fight for the points when you can. Obviously, we have a huge fight on B. We're putting a lot of energy, a lot of units on B, trying to get them set up and taken down. And you know, that's the point that's heavily contested. But you see, he's doing a good job of bringing units over to try to keep other points contested. And so having a few rush units, like the Grunt Mob specifically, and the Assault Elites, is really, really critical to be able to kind of continue that fight. And to contest those points, especially if you just have one thing like I have on it. I just had a chopper there, but being able to drop those elites in there really essentially saved me that point. And at this point in the game, actually is probably pushing me just far enough ahead that we'll end up getting this win here. Now obviously I have been using a lot more as well the Blisterback in its air mode. Obviously in this game I needed something that could fight the air, so that's important. But getting that up in the air, getting it to deal a little bit of damage, and then locking it in when you see a bigger group of ground units, specifically infantry, is pretty solid. So overall, Good hard-fought victory. Definitely a close game. Like I said, he did a great job of keeping his units up in the air. I mean, 200 and 147, that's a pretty close margin. We didn't even win a lot of the categories, but we did win the energy war, which I think, again, really helped us kind of push through. He made that big push for B. We were able to kind of keep up with him, keep pace, and I think that worked. So this is the deck that we got rolling. Like I said at the beginning, pretty good hard counters to just about everything. I think the only thing we miss out on, to be honest, is maybe the other just standard Reaver, but I do think the Prowling Reaver gets it done for us. So we'll keep that the same, and we'll jump into this next fight here pretty quick. Now we do have ourselves 5th medal, rank 45, so he's got a little bit. At this point, when I see anything that's about 10 levels or so higher than me, I do make a little bit of an assumption that they're going to have some veteran level advantage on me. And it's usually maybe 2 levels. 2 levels in veteran level is usually the mark that I've kind of come to see that ends up giving them a little bit of advantage. And it allows the units to take a little bit more damage, deal a little bit more damage, and in the long course of a fight can really be a hard thing to overcome. Instead of playing 1 hard counter unit, you essentially have to play 2 or 3, especially in a bigger fight battle, and that's tough, especially in 1v1s where you're really strapped for energy. That's the one thing I've been noticing the most, is in the 1v1s you really have to pay attention to your energy, and you have to be making smart decisions for what you're calling in at any given time. So at this point, feel okay here. I'm gonna get this Banshee up. I think I tried to fly this Banshee over to help steal this energy, potentially. Yeah, I think that's the play. I'm trying to cycle here. I'm thinking, okay, this might not be so bad. I can move this group in. I can grab B. I was kind of hoping that that Banshee was gonna fly over A. It did not, which is all right. And I think maybe just barely do I call this in. I do steal 1 of the cores, so not terrible. Honestly, decent move. I think that selection right there was really bad. I'll be really honest with everybody. I think that was not a very good selection move because of the elite. Had it just been the Banshee, I think I would have been fine. Yeah, so the selection there, again, the reason it was bad, as you guys just saw, is I ended up losing the elite and the Banshee. Had I just selected the Banshee and tried to move it out, I think I would have grabbed that point just for a little bit, and then been able to get the Banshee back to the base. Now this was a great core defense here, and works out super well for me because I'm able to grab that core, which is, as you guys know, winning the energy war, especially the early energy war. At this point, I think we should be sitting at 70 to 20 because I was able to grab 1 of them. That's huge, and I think that kind of helps set us up a little bit. I definitely feel like making the pushes for the early energy cores as always has been good. We're going to kind of spread a few units out here, try to get established to pick up the next energy drop, although it won't be for a little bit. And then we're going to just try to get this this team here set up. Now, he's got a pretty good counter for this. We don't have a ton of vehicles, so the Cyclops aren't going to be the best, but those the Warthog he had there, and that was a terrible selection for, again, just bad selections in this game. Great blast unit by him, really puts him ahead, but the enduring Trooper Warthog that he had was really critical there because of the units it dropped. So I was able to take obviously the vehicle out, but he doesn't mind sacrificing it in order to make it so that you know, he gets those additional infantry units, which I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty hard against. I don't have anything. The Grunt Mob and the Assault Elites are obviously great answers. I've got a decent little core team there that can do a little bit of work, but honestly, nothing super good. Nothing quite like the UNSC that I'm finding that makes it a good real hard counter to infantry. Like I said, the assault elites, the chopper is actually decent. The blisterback's probably actually the best answer that I do have. If I could get to the hunter captain, I absolutely would do that. I think that would be a really solid move. But I think what ends up really losing me a lot of ground in this game is the fact that he kept, again, that core first group alive. He really won that first fight, and by doing so, it puts me so far behind. Now I'm really just trying to play a lot of catch up. And I think he realizes at this point too, he's a higher level player, so he definitely has, the experience to know this. But I think he realizes too that if he focuses in, he's obviously got snipers up there. So any real infantry focus that I'm going to be able to even get to make a counter is going to kind of be hard fought. Now he's definitely trying to bring the blast units in. I'll do a good job of getting this one out of the way. And I do a decent job of fighting what was up on the ridge itself there. But again, his team here, a couple veteran levels higher, you can see a lot of his guys up at 6. I mean that really just essentially wiped out anything that I had going. Now this was a bad, I think, kind of a desperate play. I really thought the hunter captain would be able to maybe get me a couple unit trade was the real key that I was looking for. And I don't think that's the case. So at this point, I'm just trying to kind of contest points, fight points. But he's got just too good of a setup with the snipers and all that. We really did win the energy war throughout the whole game. I mean, even here, I'm grabbing cores. I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to get this Reaver in here, maybe to take this out, trying to get him out of there. And at 260 energy, that move right there really put me behind. Now we'll do a decent job of kind of fighting a few of these things, grabbing some points here and there. Still grabbing energy. I haven't seen him really grab much energy at this point. But again, that core group that he's got on B is probably just too big. Probably just too big, too powerful. Again, I'll try to get something mustered up here, move these guys forward. He gets a vulture in, which he was honestly probably just saving up for, and the vulture just tears up my Banshee and my assault elites there. And at this point now, he has the capability to kind of spread and move all three around. And there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm going to try to grunt mob here. I probably should have called the chopper or brought that chopper in. That's a decent answer to that small group of infantry that he has. But again, that's only buying me the single point and slowing down his point collection. He's got a ton of energy, but no real good options without cycling a ton to get some stuff out here. I probably should have just cycled through and tried to go like 3 or 4 grunt mob. Would have been a decent move. I see he doesn't have a whole lot on C, so I'm going to try to maybe get in and just steal that point back, at least for a little while, just to give myself some breathing room. But a great Phoenix missile with the vulture there, and I think this ends up being probably my last push. And as you can see, he's spamming the infantry a little bit, but I think he knows at this point again how hard pressed we are for it. I make the mistake here of still trying to go for the energy, which was a bad move. Because there's no amount of energy at this point, especially with him at 188 points, that I'm going to be able to provide that's going to give me enough of an advantage to fight back. My only hope here, I think, is to try to call these suicide grunts in, get a decent blast. He's doing the same with his, but again, he's managing that group well enough that they're able to get out. Now I do steal this point for just a little bit, but because of his, honestly, because of his veteran level advantage and that core group of Cyclops he has there, a lot of what I'm calling in just isn't going to do the job. I think he ends up taking this point back just after I call this blister back in, because it gets absolutely demolished by his Wolverine right here, which I also can't destroy because of his snipers, and that will wrap this one up. So 1-1 with Colony. We'll take a look here after the stats at the deck. I like Colony, I really do. I think he's a little bit more hard pressed for the 1v1s, but I do think he's very much a viable leader. I think the only one thing holding him back comparative to some of the other leaders, at least looking at Shipmaster and looking at Isabel, is he really doesn't have a good damage dealing leader power. Direct damage dealing, nothing that was going to really be able to help me take out that core group of infantry. And especially if you can get a core group of infantry established on a point, get the point defense. As you guys saw, he was able to get B really well set up, get up onto the ridge. The only other option that allows me is maybe to go to C and try to get some stuff set up. I honestly was also not a big fan of the Hunter Captain, so I think with this deck, generally pretty good. I think the Hunter Captain, again, being at 260, there's probably a lot of instances where you're not playing him. Enduring Locust might have been a decent addition as well, because it does drop the infantry. The Goliath as well was something that you could look at, maybe swapping in, get you a little bit lower curve. Goliath was probably going to be the one thing that I end up throwing in, or the Enduring Locust just because Goliath really, for the sole fact that it does provide a ton of capability to soak up a lot of damage and is decent against groups. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. 1-1 with Colony. We'll continue the series. Stay tuned for the rest of the week for the rest of the leaders coming up, and my final kind of wrap up once we get this all done. But I'm really enjoying it. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I've been Doc with Average Gamer, guys. Check you in the next one.